the GOAT, his rival, former foes, and one of MMA's top prospects. No, guys, I'm not talking about the 92 Dream Team. Bellator is coming in hot for the biggest cross-promotional event in history.
It's the Bellator All-Star Team versus the Rizin All-Star Team.
The countdown continues as we inch even closer to Bellator versus Rizin on December 31st at the iconic Saitama Super Arena in Saitama, Japan. 5 of Bellator's best meet 5 of Rizin's best in the ultimate battle for bragging rights. There's going to be some incredible talent on display, and that's why I'm here to talk you through everything you need to know about Team Bellator before New Year's Eve. Rabadanov, guys, he can do a little bit of everything. Now, I know your eyes tell you that he sets up his kicks with his punches, he sets up his takedowns with his kicks. I understand that. But he's got another weapon that's harder to see. He's one of the few guys that has learned to weaponize pace. He will come at you as hard in the last minute of the fight as he did in the very first minute. That's a real thing. That's an intangible. Whenever you're watching a fight and you're looking for the athletic contest and who can land and who can stick and who can move, who can bob and weave, all of these catchphrases you hear fight analysis say. One thing that's a little bit tougher is the intangibles. You're going to see an athletic contest for the first few minutes. But after about the 5-minute mark, you're now in the tough guy business. Rabadanov is a tough guy. Juan Archuleta, let me personalize this. I was in Oklahoma calling a show for Bellator when this young man named Juan Archuleta comes through the curtain. And he gets introduced. He's got Dominic Cruz, the legend, in his corner. I'm keeping my eye on this guy. He's got an ear like a wrestler, and I'm keeping my eye on this guy. They read out his record. Michael C. Williams reads out his record. He was 21-1. Guys, this was years ago. This was my second assignment ever with Bellator. Just to put that into a time perspective for you, this guy's 21-1. This guy's got Dominic Cruz in his corner. He's got a swollen ear. I got to follow this Archuleta. Well, sure enough, I follow Archuleta all the way to a world championship. This is amongst the great fighters ever. One thing with Archuleta as a fighter starts to get into his veteran years. He gets stubborn. Archuleta is one of the fan favorites because of how much he likes to go out and trade. Him going out and trading is what creates a stubbornness that allows himself to be open. When you want to talk about somebody going into a straight fisticuffs, I hear this all the time in our sport. I want to see 2 guys stand and bang. On Archuleta, you're going to see a guy stand and bang. Horiguchi, guys, you'll hear a term, you'll hear about this new age MMA fighter. They're talking about guys like Horiguchi. When I got into this sport in the 90s, you just needed one discipline. We'd have the wrestler versus the judo guy. You'd see karate against taekwondo, just by example. And somewhere around the turn of the century comes out the term mixed martial arts. Did you guys know that? This wasn't always called mixed martial arts. We used to call it cage fighting. We used to call it no holds barred. But when the term mixed martial arts starts to come out, what do you know, along comes a martial arts gym, and what do you know, along comes a mixed martial arts coach. Somebody who could take you on day one and put an even emphasis on the jab and the kick, the submission hold and the takedown. So when you have a guy like Horiguchi, this is not a boxer turned MMA guy. This is not a Olympic wrestler turned MMA guy. This is an MMA guy who's pursuing his journey in MMA. There's no wonder that he's been a champion. He had to make a choice in this one. He's rolling over with Bellator. He's representing the good guys. Add another former world champion to our squad. Patricio Pitbull. And yes, there's 2 of them, but does it matter? Does it really matter when you're talking about Pitbull? Because aren't we kind of painting with a broad brush here? Aggressiveness. How'd you like that? Intimidation. How'd you like that? The Pitbull brothers will put a look on you. They will bring in intensity and put a stare on you that has wilted many a man before the contest even started. Then it turns out their bite is as fierce as their bark. Look, I think his hands are his dangerous weapon. And this has been argued a lot on Pitbull. He's so well-rounded. If you just go and you just stare at his record, you just stare at his wins and losses and nothing else, you're going to come to a conclusion that he's an extremely well-rounded fighter. I don't dispute that. I'm sharing with you, I think his biggest hands is that left and right. They're both powerful, and there's nothing to feel you out. You'll hear that, oh, he's feeling him out. Oh, he's checking his range. You'll hear that. No, excuse me. With Pitbull, everything is designed to hurt you. Bad intentions. He'll hit you in the face and hope your kneecap breaks. I mean, right, this guy's got really bad intentions. I think you've got to deal with his power before anything else, and I know he takes plenty of fights to the ground. I know very few people end up successfully taking him to the ground, but they all start with the hands, and they all start with a storm real early on. You want to know what's dangerous about Pitbull? Everything, particularly that first minute. AJ McKee. Guys, this is a second generation guy. This is Bellator's Floyd Mayweather, if you will. Where the day that McKee was born, he's taken to an MMA gym. Now, that's called his house, but that living room when they pull the coffee table out of the way, and when his coach is his father who lives right across the hall. I mean, it's truly the same experience that Floyd Mayweather had. We're on day one. This is what you're discussing. You're going to do arm bars before you sit down at the dinner table. It's a wonderful opportunity. But it also creates for something very special, and that's what you see with AJ McKee. I've seen AJ knock men out, and so have you. I've also seen him, Darren Caldwell is coming to mind. I've seen AJ use submissions where with over 20 years in this sport, I couldn't tell you the name of the submission because I've never seen it before. He's creative. He's mixing things up. You want to know one thing about McKee that I don't think people talk about enough? It's flexibility. This guy can bend and he can maintain power in some very awkward situations. You talk about guys with reach, and AJ has a reach advantage in this fight, but they don't know how to use it. It's just a word that you use until you run into a guy that actually knows how to keep you at the end of his punches, who actually knows where the power in those kicks are. AJ McKee is as well-rounded as they come. Many have called him the greatest athlete in Bellator history. I don't know that I disagree with that. But when you're coming off of a loss, and I realize it wasn't his last fight, I'm sharing with you a recent memory. The first thing in your life that tells you you're not invincible. When you're dealing with that, there's emotional highs and lows. There's things you have to push aside. You got to put the past behind you, and you got to deal with what's in front of you. I don't think that I would trust anybody with that responsibility more than I would AJ McKee. So there you have it. Team Bellator is absolutely stacked with talent, and Rizin, you better bring your A game. Let us know in the comments below what match you're most pumped up to see, and we will see you right back here on Showtime for Bellator versus Rizin on New Year's Eve.